Hey guys, welcome to this video. Today we're going to be learning about macromolecules. The first macromolecule we're going to be learning about is a carbohydrate. A carbohydrate is a macromolecule that makes up cereals and breads and grains and a bunch of other things, vegetables and fruits. The structure of the carbohydrate is what we're focused on. There are two main structures. You have the long chain structure and the ring structure. Now, both of these guys are the same. They both make up the same carbohydrate. So, for example, glucose. Glucose is a single sugar, and sugars are what make up carbohydrates. And we can write that sugar in a long chain structure, or we can write it in a ring structure, as shown in the picture. Whether we write it in a long chain structure or a ring structure, we're representing the same thing. Now, these carbohydrates, they're characterized by a carbonyl group that can either be at the end, which would make it an aldose because there's an aldehyde group, or in the middle somewhere, which would make it a ketose. These are the two designations in carbohydrates. The next macromolecule we're going to talk about are proteins. Now, proteins are made up of what we call amino acids. These amino acids link together and they form what we call peptide bonds. When we have a peptide bond, is a special type of bond, and when we put a bunch of these amino acids together using these peptide bonds, we make what we call a polypeptide, and that's another word for a protein. Now, there are four main structures or four main parts of a protein and levels of its organization, and those are primary, secondary, tertiary, and quaternary. The primary structure involves just the way the amino acids are strung together to make the bonds, how many of those. The secondary structure involves the folding of certain areas in that polypeptide to make shapes for different functions, such as alpha helixes and beta sheets. Tertiary structure is what the overall structure of the protein looks like, whether it's a big ball or whether it's a really long, strung out protein. And then quaternary structure involves the protein's interactions with other polypeptide chains to make a larger protein, such as like hemoglobin, having different proteins that make up the big protein of hemoglobin. The next macromolecule that we're going to talk about is a lipid. Lipids are really usually associated with fats, but and oils, but there are really two structures that help make them up, and they do a lot of things in our body. The first kind is a glycerol lipid, and it's made of three carbons, and each carbon has an alcohol group on one end, and on the other end has what we call a fatty acid tail. And these can be really, really long and have different structures and mean different things. And then we also have steroids. Steroids are made of four rings, and they look like what's in the picture. And the thing about lipids is they are very hydrophobic and nonpolar, meaning they don't really like water, the opposite of water. And so they make up things like fats, oils, hormones, and they also are a part of the structure of our cell membranes and other membranes because they have a lot of times a nonpolar tail that's really long, but they also have a polar head a lot of times as seen in the picture. The last macromolecule we're going to talk about are nucleic acids. Nucleic acids make up the DNA in our body, and there are four main nucleic acids, and these are the ones in DNA: adenine, thymine, guanine, and cytosine. Adenine and guanine are a part of the cyclic types of nucleic acids, and these are called the purine rings, where they have two cyclic rings. Cytosine and thymine, they're part of pyrimidine rings, and they are made up of just one ring in each one. Nucleic acids make up a lot of things in our body that are very important for our DNA, for our genetics, and their structure is very important. Adenine and thymine are always paired together, whereas guanine and cytosine are always paired together in DNA. Alright, in review, guys, the first question is, what are two ways to write carbohydrates? Think about that for a second. Pause the video if you need to. The correct answer would be a long chain structure and a ring structure. Alright, the second question. What are the 4 protein structures? Again, you can pause the video, answer that question. Correct answer would be primary, secondary, tertiary, and quaternary. Third question. What are the 2 lipid forms? The answer to that would be the glycerol structure and steroids. Finally, what are the 4 nucleic acids in DNA? They are adenine, thymine, cytosine, and guanine. Thank you for watching. I hope you got a better understanding of what macromolecules are.